Great to have you on Richard Mwenja Exclusive. We continue unpacking conversations that are shaping Kenya's political and governance landscape. And today we bring in this edition right from the home of Waziri Mstaafu Ruto Arap Kirwa. We're so delighted to have his company today on the show to give us insights about where Kenya is headed and who is the author of Kenya's problem. We're going to unpack that chronologically as the show goes on. But first things first, I'm Richard Mwenja. Welcome on board. Waziri Kirwa, great to see you.
It's also my pleasure to have this opportunity to share with Kenyans my views and also my aspirations about this country. Yeah, I always believe this country can be better.
Sure enough.
Yeah.
I see you live in the spirit of climate change. Lots of trees in your homestead around here. 15 billion target, you believing in that?
Well, I think my figure is more modest. Whatever I'll be able to do, because almost in every farm that I buy, I try to set aside a section of the forest, at least 10% of the parcel of the land. So if I bought 10 acres, I would make sure that at least an acre is a forested area where nature does exist in its natural form.
But Waziri, give us your 2 cents on this. Do you think the 15 billion trees commitment as a country and dream is feasible in the fullness of time?
Well, I wish we could ask ourselves, where are these trees and which type of trees are we going to plant? Because some of them really don't operate. And how many are you going to do per acre? Because usually on average, it's between 200, depending on the species of the tree, between 200 and 600 that you can plant within a certain ecosystem and expect to get also some parcel of land released for crops and livestock production. So when you talk of figures that are just banded around, some of those figures are very unrealistic. And that is part of the problem of this regime. They use certain figures that when you put into practice, they don't make any sensible reflection of the reality on the ground. That is part of their problem.
Could you be speaking into the issue of budgeted corruption, even when you're addressing climate change in the first place?
It may be budgeted corruption. It may be just trying to show that we are doing better than the rest. Because you've seen many people in the political landscape saying for the first time, you know, at times when you use that word, it is a wrong statement. When you say for the first time, this is what we are doing, relative to what? Because if you say for the first time we are producing 50 million bags of maize, relative to what? And is that a reality? Because you see, when we are 11 million people, we are still producing about 20 million bags of maize. Some of it would be consumed, some of it would be exported out of the country. Because you see, the rule of the thumb is that for every living soul in Kenya, on average, they consume 100 kilos of maize annually. And therefore, if we have 50 million Kenyans, we need about 50 million bags of maize, either produced locally or sourced from the borders of this country, like Uganda, Tanzania, and at times southern Ethiopia. So at times, when you say for the first time we are doing this, it's not true. Because who are you comparing yourself to? When you say for the first time we are doing so many kilometers of road, compared to what? What was the size of the economy at that time? What's the size of the economy today? So some things must be measured with some kind of relativity put into the equation to make it more realistic and more practical.
You're taking concern with the word "my government" for the first time.
Yes.
And a while back you applauded Nyerere, Kibaki for always saying our government. These are collective responsibility as a nation, and our successes are collective successes that each one of you should be credited for. Do you take concern with the president oftentimes, Ruto, saying, my government promises these pledges, this has done this? Is there a danger in the word my?
There's a lot of danger, and even at times, the statements that some people in government use, more so the president, is that I've done this. I've done the road, even including the one to Rigathi's home. You know, when you say I have, it's like you use your own money. For example, Kibaki never said my government. He said we. Use the word we. And Nyerere was even more generous. When he was forming his first cabinet, he said, I've consulted with the with the governor of Tanganyika at that particular time, and he has allowed me to form the cabinet of your government. That's the people of Tanzania.
It is for the people, not for me.
Yeah, it was not Nyerere's cabinet. And he was able to announce the names of the individuals that were going to form that first cabinet in 1961. So what we should be doing as a people is to realize that when you are in position of leadership, it is what we say temporary custody of the apparatus of state. You've been given custody like the sword, like the Bible, and many other, and even State House. You are a temporary tenant or occupant of that State House. It's not a permanent home for any individual.
Even the government seal belongs to the state, not to you.
Yeah, it belongs to the state. You are just somebody using that seal on behalf of the republic.
Great that you brought that up, Waziri. And now let's go deep into our areas of concern today on our program. But let's start with a conversation about Butere girls, their play, their drama, echoes of war. You are a senior citizen in this country. You are a father, a grandfather. Look, the students took to the stage saying we are just bringing art to the fore. Art is the mirror of the society. The state viewed in a different light, that people are using students to call out on the government, and they're using that to settle political scores. Do you find concern with the stage, with the drama, Echoes of War by Butere girls in the first place? And was Malala blessing in disguise in all this arrangement?
Well, what I find is that what we are forgetting, especially those of us who are of my generation, and those perhaps 10 years younger than me, is the fact that these students are at times more informed than us, because they get into this social media space and they get a lot of information about what is happening in society. And therefore, a play like that is a reflection of their feelings and perhaps their frustrations about a society they expect to be better, but they realize that we are not making it better. They are aware of what is happening in the media. They are aware of what is happening in the government. So you cannot treat them like these are individuals who are secluded somewhere. They have the same information that you and I have, if not more. And therefore, if I was to manage and if I was to advise the president and the government of the day, would have been to see how to manage in a way that it doesn't become an issue. Perhaps if you want to go the brutal way, is possibly to frustrate the success at the lower level. But that is not what we expect under our constitution, which is robust and guarantees every person a right to expression, including young children, because they are potential voters. In the next election, some of them will be voting. They are also influencers in terms of change. In fact, in many places, including when I was an MP, you can easily know whether you are being accepted in a certain region through the expression of primary school children, not even secondary. Because when you hear them resonating with you, you know in that farm you have some support.
You are the talking point.
Yes.
For the
and
right
when
reasons.
you see them a bit shy in that farm, either not much is talked about you, or there are certain negative vibes that emanate from the parents and from society. This therefore means that Butere girls actually got a better show, because it's all over. Even some of us who are not aware of Echoes of War, we have been able to see in TikTok, we've been able to see in media, and all of us. So whatever happened, they have achieved what they wanted to do. They have passed the message that not all is well in our society. We need to make changes for the better of Kenya.
As a person who served this country in higher levels, what do you make of the suppression of the students who were using tear gas? Because tear gas were lobbed at these teenagers. Do you think that was the lowest from this government? Remember Langata primary schools pupils at some point, now Butere girls and a few others who were there. Was that the lowest President Ruto's government could sink?
It's a sign of insensitivity on the part of those who are dealing with security forces. It is good all the time to be sensitive, because tear gas is supposed to be used when a situation gets out of hand. But you cannot just use it on innocent young girls or innocent because of course there might have been also boys from other schools. It was, to say the least, the height of carelessness on the part of the security forces and those who are commanding them. Yeah.
Upon being lopped by these tear gas, these students marched front in unison, singing the national anthem. What was the writing on the wall?
It is that we are slightly above you. We are patriotic about Kenya. We want the best for Kenya. You do not meet the threshold of being given custody of apparatus of state. This therefore means it was a vote of no confidence on the regime that is in existence today. Yeah.
You've talked about these teenagers and Gen Zs and millennials being the custodians of the future of Kenya. But for Eugene Wamalwa, DAP party leader, he believes that it will be the biggest misdoing if Gen Zs are to front a candidate of their own for the presidency in 2027. All they need to do is support an established politician, rally their support behind one. Do you find some sense of wisdom behind Eugene's concern about where Gen Z's votes should rally behind in 2027?
Well, Gen Zs, if they qualify, and if they have the numbers, I will not even mind having a 30-year-old man or woman being our president, because the situation cannot get worse than this. Number two, what I would request Gen Zs is that let us be part of a process, because we've heard of so many people running. There are those who have declared already. There are those who are talked about, like Matiang'i. There are those who are suspected will be running. Let us be part of the process so that we get one candidate supported by us and by Gen Zs. After all, Gen Zs are majority in this country. So I will not in a way tell them not to run a candidate. Let their candidate join us so that we move together. Such that at the end of the day, if the Gen Z candidate becomes the best, so be it. Some of the leaders, including the late president of Cuba, Fidel Castro, became a president at the age of 29. And people like Thomas Sankara became president in early 30s. And he was able to do so much within 4 years that Kenyans and the rest of Africa and the world are talking about. Was he not eliminated by his own close friend and his deputy, Blaise Compaoré, through a military coup? Otherwise, Sankara did so much, only for Blaise Compaoré to be there for 27 years and do less. Instead, he became repressive as a president. The current president of the same country, Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, is doing so much within the resources that he got in the country. And he was very smart in the way he approached the whole thing about the French. So we should not be ageist. There are good leaders who are old. There are good leaders who are young. And I became an MP at the age of 31. And I don't think by the time I left at the age of 40-something, I was not a better MP than when I got in. So at times, age should be seen as a positive. Youth should be seen as a positive vibe. Because those days I could drive from Kitale, be here by 9 o'clock, go back by 3 o'clock. In the evening, I'm at home. But today I have to plan how to go to Kitale for like 1 or 2 days. At times I postpone once or twice before I leave.
Your time is almost up.
Not up. I'm still useful in other ways. but you see, the body, the clock, the biological clock is ticking, and also the system is not as robust as it was at that time.
Sure.
Compare a new car and a car that is 20 years old. There's a lot of difference.
Sure enough.
Yeah.
Before we flip over to our next conversation, we have to discuss about the Kenya Kwanza government, our opposition, and also the space of democracy at large.
Yes.
Let's finish the conversation about the Gen Zs. Waziri Kirwa, Vision 2030 is coming to a close in the next 5 years. And Kenyans might be afraid that if you look at the situation around, then we really need to keenly ask ourselves, who is going to be the custodian of our next vision as a country post-Vision 2030? And I want to understand, do you believe these Gen Zs and millennials should be the right custodians of our next vision as a country?
I strongly believe they have a role to play. Remember, those of us who are above 60, we comprise less than 5% of the population. So we cannot demean the role of young people in transiting this country to greater heights of development and prosperity and national cohesion. Nyerere in it should be 1985 or 83, before he retired, the last cabinet that he appointed, he made sure 50% of the cabinet that he formed comprised people below 40.
50%?
50% comprised people below 40, including his own prime minister, the late Edward Moringe Sokoine, who later on, of course, and unfortunately passed on road accident. But he made sure that the cabinet was below 40, and he said, I am 63, because he was going to be 63 at the end of that term. I don't want to hand over to people I've been with for so long, because we have certain shared vision that may be monotonous. Let us get a generation that is looking at Tanzania afresh. And that is why he was so deliberate. Today, if I was to advise anybody forming the cabinet after this election, let half of the cabinet be below 40. Half of it. Then the other half, you can say below 50, the other half, the other portion below 60. And if there is one or two above 60, let it be an exception. Because we must hand over this country. And you see, in terms of human resource management, which I'm privileged to have done in school or in college, the most critical thing is what we call change with continuity.
Change with continuity?
Yeah, change with continuity. That you are bringing some changes, but you are still continuing with certain character that is useful to the organization, so that you have a clear succession plan, that when I'm not there, whoever is taking over should be stronger, perhaps key down the details, and some more focused than we've been. Otherwise, if you've been with some people, you are likely to think the same, to do things the same way, and almost find it not in tandem with reality when you do things differently. I will give you another example from Uganda.
Sure.
When Museveni took over, as a way of fighting cattle rustling, he registered guns and allowed people to own guns in their locality. So you would find an old man taking care of his livestock, but he has a gun that is officially known, he owns it. So that those who wanted to rustle and they had some arms know that even where we are going, those people have guns. And he has been able to stem the insecurity that was so much in part of northern and eastern Uganda, including our border with the Turkana and the Pokot County of Kenya. So these are some of the things that we need to radicalize our thinking, change from saying this is the way we have been doing things. At times do things differently, but within a certain system that is acceptable to everybody.
So it's about great institutions being born out of great traditions.
Yes, out of great traditions, you create institutions and allow institutions to operate. You know, that is the art of leadership. You do not form an institution, then you become the general manager, and yet you have an MD in that, or a CEO in that particular organization.
So Waziri, any person out here thinking that these established politicians of today are the ones who are going to bother new Kenya, those people could believe in a lie?
Well, we need a blend. The way I've told you, those of us above 60, we are 5%. And that's information that is available to anybody who wishes to cross-check. And therefore, in terms of leadership, we must have some kind of pyramid, so that the higher in terms of age, the fewer you are at the leadership pyramid. So that where the majority are, or the average of the majority are, should be the people who are expected to do day-to-day running of affairs of the country. Yeah.
It makes sense, Waziri.
Yeah.
So then again, let me get your view on the president's reservations regarding Ruto must go chants. The president dismisses that as ordinary songs, ordinary chants, which thus far remain harmless. And the president actually argues that if he's to be a one-term president, he'll retire to farming. He has no problem with that. But as it stands, Ruto must go chants do not scare him or make him fear in any way. Do you think the president is somewhat now acknowledging that, yes, indeed, defeat could be on the way if I'm not careful?
Well, I think what I like with the president is that he's very courageous. I will not be able even to repeat some of those words that Ruto must go. But it is a demonstration that the reality has dawned on him, that majority of Kenyans don't think much of him. And of course, other people did not said Moi must go towards the tail end. And Kibaki and Kenyatta 1 and even Kenyatta 2, they were not handled the way William Ruto has been handled. In fact, I still admire his courage, because if he has the courage to tell us what he has heard, because at times when you are in politics, you pretend you have not heard what people have said about you. Otherwise you run the risk of answering everybody and anybody. Usually when I was an MP, if somebody came and told me so and so was talking negatively about you, I tell him, why did he do that? Possibly he was provoked by somebody else. And in most cases when I meet that person, I will not say, oh, so and so, I was told you were talking about against me the other day. No, you just ignore. Because if nobody is talking about you, then you are nobody.
You are a nobody.
Yeah, you are nobody, because you see, and when you get to this public space, like now the president, he becomes public property. He's no longer the private citizen that he was before he became an MP and subsequently president in the year 2022. So he is a public figure, and being a public figure is public property. And the public handles him the way they feel. The way he's treating them is the way they treat him. What I would have expected him to do is to give us assurance that now my regime will be less repressive. It will not be abducting anybody, and all the children who are abducted, now they are back. These are things that, as a way of having a conversation with the public. But the way he was saying it in the funeral of George in Siaya, it was a clear demonstration that he's bitter about it. But if he was not bitter about it, he would have said, I've heard you, and this is what I intend to do.
This is what I intend to do.
Yes.
You've talked about the president being a somebody, not just any other Kenyan citizen.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the question, the president has never lost an election since he entered the political scene.
Yes.
Now you've said he's ascended into heights that today he's a big somebody in this country.
Yes.
Are you not afraid that also 2027 election, it is his for the taking, now that he's never had a history of losing an election?
Well, Moi lost when he supported Uhuru, and yet he himself not lost an election since independence, or since he became MP of Rift Valley in 1957, or no, 55. So there is a first. I remember the late Kamwithi Munyi was the MP in Embu County, by then Embu District. I think MP for Runyenjes North, no, Embu East. I can't remember very well. In the election preceding, he had the highest number of votes in the country. By then it was 29,000 votes, which were the highest in the Republic. In the next election, he got 3,000 votes. So at times popularity can turn into some kind of unpopularity. So the votes the president got in the last election, there is no guarantee he's going to get the same. Unless he has other plans other than democratic changes that we expect. Because you will be lucky even to get 40% of the
Even
votes.
with the broad-based government on board, the union with Raila Odinga?
Usually in politics, when you add 6 that Raila got, plus 7 that William Ruto got, the answer should be 13. But it's not like that. The answer may be 5. Because there will be people running away from Raila's camp to another camp, people running away that voted for him in the last election to another camp, and you don't know which camp is that going to be. In 2002, Kibaki was not considered the most serious candidate. Even when there was some rating of people abroad called KCA, Kenya Community Abroad, Kibaki was not even among the top 7. But eventually, when we came together, LDP and NAK, Kibaki got 66% of all the votes cast in that particular general election against Uhuru's candidature, who got about that something. And of course, Nyachai got another percentage, the late Simon Nyachai. So at times, you cannot guarantee that because of this trend, these are likely to be the results. Even at times when you do so well at the constituency level, people don't just vote for you because of what you've done. At times there is a certain wave that may visit your constituents that will change their thinking, and the last minute you lose. So there is no guarantee that the president will win or will lose. It depends on the thinking of Kenyans at that particular time. If he wanted to win, then he should be less abrasive than he is today.
You've mentioned of possibly the pact between UDA and ODM coming up to be the last nail on the political coffin of President Ruto and Raila Odinga, respectively. But this far, when we are talking about this MOU, 10-point MOU between UDA and ODM, this far, do you think the both parties have played fidelity to that MOU for the greater good of Kenyans?
First of all, the MOU, about 8 out of the 10 issues are already enshrined in the Constitution. And, you know, it's like telling me, have breakfast in the morning, then have lunch. Then in the evening, you can also have something light for dinner or supper. Those are obviously issues that the president did not need to get reminded by that MOU. So I would say, to say the least, that MOU was superfluous, to say the least. Number two, there is no guarantee that what they said they are doing. And also it is important to remind Kenyans that the work of the government of the day is to serve the country regardless of your political persuasion. So this issue of saying now that we are in this government, I saw the governor of Busia, the Honorable Tuoma, saying now that we are in this broad-based government, we need somebody also from Busia. People from Busia deserve to be in government, whether they voted for William Ruto or not. Otherwise, it is not that the government is giving resources because they favor you. It should be there is need in that particular area, and therefore you dispense resources accordingly, or there is somebody suitable for certain position in society from that area. You give him that position, or you give her that particular position. So this issue of equating government and the personal generosity is a warped political thinking.
The president talked about not using state capture to settle political scores, and part of that was during our back days as a country, weaponizing state appointments, state resources. This one, do you he's walked the talk on that pledge of not using state capture, state machinery to silence his critics or his dissenters?
It is very clear that he himself talks about it, saying, I have done this, including the road that passes Wamanyoro, which was done 2019, and he says he did it. Of course, he could have used his salary as a deputy president to do that road, if that is feasible. And also some of the changes that you see today or in the last 3 months or so, that change, if I remove you, I put you a cousin so that you feel the family has not suffered. These are some of the issues that we feel the state should be impartial, should act in a way that is like blindfolded, so that whatever it is done by the state is seen to be a deserving Otherwise, you are weakening even the capacity of that person, because they will say, after all, he was given because he happens to be a cousin to the other person. Yeah.
It is all about giving people space to apply themselves in those respective dockets.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the concern that you've done management at higher levels in your education, and many are curious to understand the president's philosophy of management. Some would argue he's doing management by walking around what people call mbwa. Do you think that's going to be a sustainable way of managing a country in the first place, and is it going to work, pay off?
The best thing to do is to allow systems to operate. When you allow systems to operate, you don't have to be there every day. It's like a headmaster just moving around the compound and almost checking whether there is rubbish, whatever it is, when there is a teacher that is in charge of the week.
Teacher on duty.
Teacher on duty. And there are also class prefects and also school prefects who are supposed to do some of those things. What the president should do is really to let go some of the decisions so that people make decisions according to the reality on the ground. Otherwise, you remember there was a decision of the former Minister for Education, the Honorable Machogu, who, because of certain challenges at that time, schools were supposed to open, and yet he was not given the go-ahead until it was too late. On Sunday night is when that decision was arrived at State House, and he was informed to say that the schools are not going to operate the following day. When some children, either from Trans Nzoia, from Busia, from Mombasa, had already traveled all the way. They were in the street. So that is lack of effective management. Allow people to make decisions according to the situation, then inform you that this is a decision that I've taken and these are the reasons. And that's why when I say Mzee Kibaki gave us that kind of latitude of freedom to decide, it is not because he didn't know what was happening in the country. He knew, but he knew things can be done better by those on the ground. Yeah.
We are not only talking about management, general management, but also particularly management of public resources in this sense. And some would wonder, do you find the Kenya Kwanza government being big on pragmatism, but to the extent of stealing? Because that's the conversation in town.
Well, I don't know whether they steal, only that we get reports from Auditor and Controller General, who tells us that certain resources did not go where we expected. We get also from Controller of Budget that certain things were done against the law. And that is the information that we consume here. And we have no reason to doubt those two institutions, given the fact that they are institutions properly put there by the Constitution, and doing a job that we want to commend the two ladies, Madam Nancy
Gathungu.
Yeah?
Madam Nancy Gathungu, Auditor General.
Yes.
And Margaret Nyakango.
We want to commend them. We want to really appreciate them. That when the history of Kenya is written, they will occupy a very nice chapter in the hearts of the people.
Not just a footnote.
Not a footnote. They will occupy a very nice chapter. That's why they have had a lot of problems in the past, including somebody going about 20 years ago saying that, oh, you are a member of this cooperative, and there was a problem. Who doesn't have some problem? I saw yesterday, 1999, our president coming out of court on issues of fraud. And
fraud charges?
Yeah, that he had taken money from Kenya Pipeline, about 77 million.
A son of the church?
Yeah. But that was a fraud case. I saw yesterday, back in the history of this country, 1999. And he was with Julius Unkuli, being escorted out of the High Court. I think, was it the High Court? Yes. So, who doesn't have a past? All of us, we have a past.
Skeletons from the
past.
We
have a lot of skeletons. It's only that at times people either are forgotten or choose to not to remember. Because of course, you can forget or choose not to remember by conveniently not saying what you saw then. But I saw yesterday and I was happy. I said, okay, this he was telling you what he is today. Because you see, by then 77 million was too much money. I don't remember my account even having $1 million shillings then, unless I sold many cows.
But there you had a first-term MP having 77 million?
77 million from Kenya Pipeline. And anyway, I don't know how the case went. And but of course, those are facts. We cannot run away from that. Those are facts. So when you hear some money have been diverted that were meant for, was it visas, to certain accounts elsewhere, and it came out from an institution that is not Kenyan, is telling you some of those things are still happening. If it's not Kenya Pipeline, it could be visas, it could be e-citizen, it could be anything.
Subsidized fertilizer, perhaps?
Subsidized fertilizer that was given for free. Then you eject Sifuna out of Senate when he says that. What you are given for free, you cannot say you have subsidized. What have you done? If I gave you this phone for free, and I tell you, go give your father, you cannot go and tell him, I've
the argument
subsidized
is
the
that
cost.
the government needed to do further blending of the fertilizer before now distributing to the masses.
Blending with the cow dung.
So they incurred some cost which they needed to recoup.
Oh, from the cow dung.
Really,
you remember?
Waziri?
Yeah, there was cow dung and stones. Don't you remember? Why do you forget some of these things?
So indeed they could be pragmatic, but only to the extent of stealing.
Yeah, their main case was to steal.
And you've talked about skeletons coming to the picture from the past.
Yes.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has brought forth one such skeleton, that which has to do with the death of General Ogolla. Kalonzo dismisses the report from the KDF and agencies that were investigating the crash, saying General Ogolla was taken out, and the blame should lie squarely at the president to explain why. Do you think it's the first time that we have seen Kalonzo Musyoka punching hard enough? Because we have seen this excite his followers. And is he right to actually take concern with the report about Ogolla's death?
Well, I applaud him for making that particular decision and making that statement, because it's useful that we get to the bottom of every case. You remember all murder cases, whether it is Pio Kamabinto, J.M. Kariuki, Robert Ouko, Bishop Alexander Kipsang Muge,
Saitoti perhaps?
Saitoti. Most of these things, they just disappear into thin air. And their families need a closure to some of these issues. And therefore, the family of Ogolla, and even every Kenyan, we must have a closure that is based on reality. In fact, they could have invited even some forensic experts to give us certain conditions that precipitated the chopper coming down. And that information would perhaps be more credible, instead of using the same system that we suspect was involved to unearth what they covered. Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Waziri, before we talk about the space of democracy in this country and the threshold of democracy as a state, let's talk about our political parties. And this far, Nyali Member of Parliament Mohammed Ali has threatened to quit UDA over what he terms as management inefficiencies, disenfranchising of democracy, all thanks to the recently concluded UDA grassroots elections. So it is not only Mohammed Ali who is taking concern with the political party that at the onset of it saw allegiance to. There are many others who've threatened to bolt out of UDA, talk of people like Ndindi Nyoro and a few others. Do you think UDA is a sinking ship, but they are in denial?
Well, I do not know. I left UDA some time back, I think about 2 years ago. Is it? Yeah, more. Because I left, I think, in June 2022, and this is April 2025. So slightly more than 2 years ago. At that particular time, there was some semblance of democracy because the president allowed people to make decisions. But as of now, I do not know. What I can say generally about political parties, more so in Africa, is that they are crafted around individuals. And therefore, they do not have the requisite democratic institutions or structures that make them durable in terms of withstanding pressure from certain individuals who are not interested in democracy. Number two, political parties are also grafted around certain communities or a coalition of communities. and therefore their durability will depend on how those communities are still holding together. That's why the president was saying the other day he was a founder member of ODM, which is true, because by then it was a coalition mainly between the Kalenjin, the Luya, a large section of the Luya, and the Luo in 2007. When he pulled out of that arrangement and he went to URP and subsequently Jubilee and now UDA, ODM lost that constituency of the Kalenjin, but it still remained in Luya land and in Luo land. This therefore means it's still a coalition of communities that are aligned to Raila and crafted around Raila. In the absence of Raila, ODM is not likely to survive unless there is effective transition to another leader. Unlike, for example, parties in like ANC in South Africa, we transited from Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, Zuma, and now Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the president of that country. Despite the fact that they have been gotten a beating of late, but it's still a national party. Tanzania CCM started as TANU, later on transited to CCM. Nyerere left the scene, Mwinyi left the scene, Mkapa left the scene, Kikwete left the scene, Magufuli came in, and now Samia Suluhu Hassan. But CCM is still a strong national movement that you cannot underrate in Tanzania. So, but here in Kenya, there is something that a keen student of politics will observe. There is no coalition that has formed the government twice since for the last 25 years. Remember, we started with NAC, then PNU, then from PNU, what was the other one? It was URP, TNA. Then from URP, TNA, it was Jubilee. Then from Jubilee now, Kenya Kwanza, under the banner of UDA for the last 25 years. Why? It is because these relationships are fragile. Today, Wetangula is not sitting pretty in Kenya Kwanza. Today, Musalia has lost his own party. Today, Amazon Kingi is the man who negotiated for himself. And therefore, I don't know how he will negotiate in the next political dispensation.
So our political parties are commercial entities?
They have become commercial entities or small kiosks, to say the least. Such that even ODM, despite the fact that Raila has kept it strong movement for the last number of years, today ODM is on a very shaky foundation, unless the younger leaders were to take over and move with drastic changes towards an alternative view to the situation that is today.
But the young leaders you're talking about, like Sifuna, have been warned that behave accordingly, otherwise we'll de-whip you. We are the co-founders of ODM. You better behave yourself. We are your elders.
But in the constitution of ODM, I have not seen somewhere, because I had to go back and check whether there is a position for founder members. There's none. This therefore means that Sifuna, as long as the general membership of ODM feel that he's doing the right thing, Sifuna should not even be threatened by anybody. And I like his brand of politics. I enjoy it. And I just pray that it does not collapse on the momentum of the situation that is prevailing today.
But don't you fear the silence from Raila Odinga regarding the remarks made by President Ruto targeted at Sifuna? Why would he be silent over such a remark that we're gonna put you in your place, Sifuna, if you stop, if you continue going bare knuckles on me as your president?
I thought the president was saying it in jest, and he wanted to make the moment light. But of course, he took exception, because I know his body language. I could see when Sifuna was talking, they focused on him. When Orengo was talking, they focused on him. And I could see the movement of his eyes were almost deliberately shifting towards another direction. And I remember I drank some water, and also Raila drank some water at some stage. So I realized that they were not sitting very pretty, but as of now, Sifuna is talking Raila's language. Because Raila, watch this space, may be a candidate for ODM in the next election.
Raila Odinga could bought out of this arrangement at the 11th hour?
Yes, at the 11th hour. There's nothing permanent.
Leave this holy matrimony from their lenses?
Well, is it holy or unholy?
They believe it's a holy one.
No, it's
people
unholy.
like you and Kalonzo Musyoka believe it's unholy.
Unholy and also criminal. Criminal in the sense that is going against the basic tenets of the Constitution. That if you are minority, you are minority for the intervening period. If you are majority, you are majority for the intervening period.
Stick to it to the end.
Stick to it to the end. Otherwise, all these other things, shuffling chairs here and there, is actually the height of bad manners. And it is lack of clear political hygiene. And it's actually diluting the trust Kenyans have on political class. I'm telling you, all of us politicians, Kenyans are suspect of us. They suspect us of bad manners.
You're the first culprits, first suspects?
We are suspects, culprits, and also villains. We are everything.
Glad that you've somewhat authored the problem within our political parties and our political coalitions.
Yeah.
But what do you make of people like Opio and I who say, yes, we moved into government to lend our expertise, but we also were in this government to stay, even as the opposition? Does that speak into sycophancy?
I actually don't understand really what expertise did he bring to government. William Ruto has more experts who are better than Opio and I. It is not their expertise, it was just political convenience. How come that those who are appointed were people holding critical positions in ODM? Remember, deputy party leader from Coast was made minister, deputy party leader from Western was made minister, chairman of the party was made minister, he himself was a minority whip, or was he minority whip or leader? Was made, leader, minority leader was made minister. The only person who was not very high in the ranks of ODM is Beatrice School, the lady from Turkana. Otherwise the rest of them were high-ranking officials of ODM. So it was a way of trying to quell the rumbling in the party by giving the party stalwarts positions in government to make it look like it's ODM that is running the show. But this show cannot be run by anybody else. It's really a Ruto. If it is good, it is him.
One-man guitar?
One-man show.
One-man show.
Yeah.
You've talked about our political parties being formed around individuals. And most recently, the Raila Odinga, as Azimio leader, has asked his MPs to really support the CDF bill 2025, that which seeks to return the CDF, to actually get the CDF to the counties to be managed by devolved units of government. And Raila Odinga adds a rider that he's gonna decampaign any ODM MP who's gonna oppose that. What is your view on that new arrangement that CDF should be given to our devolved units of government?
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm of the same school, that money should not be dispensed through many channels, but a member of parliament must also play a role, so that a governor does not take money, do projects in your constituency without the tacit approval of the leadership on the ground. So when you talk of public participation, it must be public participation that also involves member of parliament, the MCA of the area, and every other leader in that particular part of the country. Because there is no place without a constituency in Kenya. There is no place without electoral ward in Kenya. Almost every space in Kenya has some leader, whether it's MCA, whether it's a member of parliament. But what I've been worried is this, I don't know whether to call it dichotomy or the amalgam, where a member of parliament is also almost behaving like he's an implementing agent for certain things to be done in the constituency. But of necessity, he must also be consulted because he's a leader from that particular constituency. But let the governor or the office of the governor manage those resources, but with the approval of the leadership on the ground, including a member of parliament. That is where, if we are to be effective in dealing with issues of representation oversighting and issues of legislation, that should be the role of a member of parliament. Otherwise, today, you find somebody may leave in a position of Senate because he knows there is 200 million going to the constituency because he wants to manage that 200 million. Because a senator does not have anything other than his salary. Women rep, woman MP does not have anything other than her salary. And yet, she's also traversing the same county as any other, as the governor. So it should not be that it is going to the office of the governor for the governor to say, I'm the boss. It should be office of the governor because they have the requisite structures, and also they must be listening to the leadership of the area.
Great.
Yeah.
Waziri, many Kenyans, both locally and in the diaspora, believe that you are this surgeon who has the right precision to diagnose our political problem as a country, the source of our problems politically, economic-wise, and even socially. Let's take it one after the other. In our political arena, what do you think is the main author of the problem we experience as a country?
Well, the main author is lack of clarity of thought on the part of those who are in leadership. Clarity of thought in the sense that they do not allow institutions to mature and to operate independently. What do I have in mind?
Sure.
Judiciary should be allowed to operate independently. All constitutional offices, whether it is DPP's office, whether it is Judicial Service Commission, should be allowed to operate independently. Legislature should be allowed to operate independently, whether it's the Senate or the National Assembly or various county assemblies. They must be allowed to operate independently. Governance should not only be resourced, but they should also be allowed to operate independently so that you don't do a follow-up that we've given you so much. And when somebody says we've given you, who are you? It is the taxpayer who has given you that money. And if the taxpayer has given you the money, the taxpayer will hold you to account if you are the governor of a certain area. And that taxpayer will say, when the scorecard is recorded, you did well or you did not do well. So if we allow those institutions to operate independent of any person, of course within the safeguards of the law, that is where we will succeed as a country.
And what's the main source of Kenya's economic pain? Economic pain, because Kenyans say we are experiencing high cost of living. Some are talking we need to attribute that to corruption. What do you think is the author of the pain Kenyans are facing?
Of course, it's clear that 30% of all the resources budgeted for go into corruption. And therefore, corruption has become so pervasive that today, for every 100 shillings that you budget, 30 shillings will go towards corruption. Number two, there are also numerous taxes that are levied on people that is making the economy not productive. You see, when you engage people with a lot of taxes, you run the risk of stifling that economy. I remember when Margaret Thatcher took over the reins of power under the Conservative Party in UK, she reduced a lot of taxes. And in the process, they collected more than they were collecting previously. In 2003, when we took over the Kibaki One administration, we reduced the VAT from 18 to 16, and we collected almost double what we were collecting previously. And the overall budget moved from 240 billion to 540 billion. And by the time Kibaki was leaving the scene, we are almost at over 1 trillion. And 96% of the budget was by our own resources. It was only about 4% that was from external funding. Today, the situation is that for every 100 shillings we collect, 70 shillings go towards retiring the debt, both domestic and external. This therefore means increasing taxation does not necessarily yield more resources to the kitty. At times you have to balance between taxes and reliefs to the people so that you spur growth. And when people grow the cake, there will be more taxes coming from the growth that you have. For example, during the recession, I think in 1948 in America, the government was paying people to dig holes and fill them because they wanted to inject money into the economy. This is akin to what Kibaki 1 did under what we were calling stimulus projects, where in my own constituency we built Kapsara Health Center and many other secondary schools like Kapcheblanget and so forth, under the stimulus project that allow money to go to the people, let the people in that area provide the labor, and the money will get to them. And that money, because people will buy goods and services, or they are selling services to get money, and they will buy goods, that money will get back to the treasury because you'll be getting 16% VAT and other taxes that are accrued to the government.
It is a cycle.
It's a cycle, and it's like a bloodstream. If your finger is bleeding, by the evening you'll be continuously. By the evening you will almost be dying, because the economy is like bloodstream. You affect your finger, your toenail, your toe, it will affect the rest of the economy, the rest of bloodstream.
Well, there you have it from former Minister Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa, EGH. We've discussed a raft of issues on our program today. We've diagnosed Kenya's, the author of Kenya's problems in the economic front, social front, political front. We've also discussed highlights of our week as a country, and you've heard it from him. It remains to be seen whether you'll tap into nuggets of wisdom from Waziri himself. Time now for our hero of the week under a Hero's Corner segment with Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa. Today, shujaa wetu nani?
Shujaa wetu ni the Honorable John Kipsang Koech.
John Kipsang Koech?
Yeah, the former MB for Chebalungu.
Oh, really?
Yes, he became minister in various portfolios. Born 1945.
1945.
Yes, went to local schools, finishing at Cheptenye, joining Makerere University in 1969.
Wasn't a child of the dynasty?
No, he was a child of a village elder.
Mtoto wa hustler?
Yeah, mtoto wa hustler. So from Makerere, he came back, tried his hand in politics in 1974, but didn't succeed. But in subsequent elections, he won. He was elected, he was made minister. Then one afternoon, because of the Kanu regime at that particular time, and they felt he had a very strong head, they not only disallowed him to be a member of Kanu, but he lost his ministerial position and member of parliament. In came somebody, Kimuna Arap, saw it temporarily, but later on he regained his seat. The last time we served together in the same cabinet, Kibaki won. He himself from Kanu and I was from NAC. He served as Minister for East Africa Community. He's a man with very good credentials, a very good thinker. Unfortunately, we lost him this week, and today he is being buried in Chebalungu constituency, where he was born.
God rest his soul in eternal peace.
Yeah, thank you.
You've lost a friend?
I've lost a friend, a colleague, and a partner in the thinking process of how to improve this country.
Was he one of those MPs who spoke for the people? It was about the people, not about him?
Yeah, it was about the people. That's why he had a lot of challenges with President Moi. And when I got into parliament, later on we met because he subsequently bounced back. And we managed to serve together again. And we shared a lot. And I met him about 3 weeks ago when he was already in hospital. And we were able to share some niceties. And unfortunately, that was the last time we met. We just pray for his family, pray for his constituents, and those who knew him. Yeah.
And the many lives he touched.
Yeah, he touched.
History
both as a teacher and also as a politician. Yeah.
History has bared us witness as a country whereby those members of parliament who spoke for the people, who fought for the people, have ended up dying poor and broken. Is this the case for John Koech?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. He became minister several times. And of course, those days, I can assure you, there was very little you could get as a member of parliament. Our salary when I first joined parliament was 18,000. But I'm happy at least he was able to serve with us 2002, 2007. Yeah.
All right, there you have it. Mheshimiwa John Koech, rest in eternal peace. From your friend Arap Kirwa, of course, indeed, it is a sad day for him and for the country at large. We pray for solace for your family, friends, and all those that you touched, and only divinely solace. Until we get to do this again on Richard Mwenja Exclusive, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. We do this again with Waziri Kipto Arap Kirwa next week, Tuesday.